Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Sensei series. Today we're looking at 11 ways to be a more professional musician. Of course, not everyone watching will aspire to make music their career, but if you play the occasional gig or just enjoy jamming with your buddies, you should be able to find some value here. Alright, let's dive in. Number 1, check your ego at the door. This can be a tough thing to do, and even professionals will struggle with it. But silencing our ego will do nothing but improve the music. At the end of the day, the song is king, and every note you play should serve it. If you're playing things to show off or prove some sort of point, you're doing it wrong. The best compliment that I've ever received as a sideman was, "It was easy to play with you, you made me sound great." When all the musicians are working towards the same goal, all critiques and instructions will be received positively and ultimately lead to better music. Number 2, know your role. As musicians, it's important to know our place in the band, both musically as well as how the group is structured. We should always be asking ourselves, what role am I playing right now in the song? Am I supporting the vocal part? Am I the featured lead? Simple stuff like that all ties into serving the song. But you also need to understand your role within the group dynamic. As a sideman, your role will most likely be to take instruction. If you're one of the key members of the band, maybe everyone looks to you if the song structure starts to get messed up. Or maybe you're the songwriter who will have the final say as to how a song is arranged. A group rarely, if ever, has everybody playing the same role, and it's important to know what you're expected to do. A little discussion will go a long way. Let me give you a personal example where I could have done a better job with this. Years ago, I was hired to replace the guitarist in a friend's band. I wasn't aware that the fellow I was replacing was leading the band. I prepared as a sideman, and our first gig was pretty rough. This all could have been avoided if I had prepared for that role, or if the singer had realized he was now the de facto band leader and prepared for that. Number 3, know your limits. We all have musical limits, and there's some opportunities that are not the right fit. By knowing this, you won't get into situations where you're in over your head, which does nothing good for your reputation. For me personally, if the best jazz musician in my town offered me a high-paying gig, I would probably turn it down. I'm not qualified for that, and it would be short-sighted to take the job. Trust me, I've learned this the hard way. I've taken gigs that I wasn't qualified for, played poorly, and ultimately tarnished my reputation with everyone in the band as well as the audience. Number 4, prepare for the unexpected. This is a big thing that separates professionals from amateurs. There's always going to be something that goes awry at a gig. You want to be able to adapt to that situation. If a singer realizes they need to change keys at the last second, this shouldn't be that big of a deal if you've done your homework. If the song form falls apart, it's alright. Look around, make eye contact with the other musicians, and figure it out. Maybe you find out the band needs to play longer than you originally planned. Well, it doesn't hurt to have a couple songs in your back pocket, or at least know some standards from that genre. You should also be able to deal with any technical issues. Having some spare parts, extra strings, another cable, stuff like that can help turn a potentially tragic situation into a cakewalk. Moral of the story, be adaptable. Nobody likes to deal with somebody in panic mode. Number 5, value your time. If you don't value your time, no one else will. You're the one who sets the market price for your service, so make sure you don't shortchange yourself. As a professional, you or your band should have a set rate that you're not willing to move off of. And don't even get me started on the idea of playing for exposure. This will do nothing but cheapen your brand, and nobody worth your time will ask you to do this. Number 6, value other people's time. Whether it be a booking agent, a session musician, a producer, you should always be respectful of the time somebody is giving you. For example, writing a 3-page essay when you're first trying to contact someone through email is probably not a good idea. If you hire a studio musician, be on time and don't expect them to stay late if you're not. And here's a big one, always come prepared for a rehearsal. Generally speaking, rehearsal is not the time to be learning parts, and if you are, you're wasting everyone else's time. I mean, this stuff should seem pretty obvious, but you'd be amazed how often it gets overlooked. Number 7, understand the group dynamic. Every band is different, and figuring out the unique dynamic is pretty important. I've heard it said that professionals should never drink on the job. Well, if that's your choice, fine, but I've been in many situations where that's part of the atmosphere. Try to get a feel for what you're getting involved in, and my advice, err on the side of caution. Number 8, be upfront about money. No one likes to discuss money, so you might as well get it out of the way off the bat. If someone reaches out to me to hire me, I want to know right away how much the gig pays, or at least I want them to ask me what my rate is. I also believe that it's fairly rude and unprofessional to make someone ask you to get paid for their service. It's as easy as having a check or cash available as soon as possible after a gig. Number 9, be confident, not cocky. There's a fine line between the two. When you're confident, you instill a sense of ease in the musicians you play with. When you're cocky, you do not. I've played with the latter, and man, it stresses me out. They'll act like they always have everything under control, even if they don't, so you never really know if they're prepared. It's easy to give somebody confident instruction and critique, whereas it's a bit of a nightmare to give that to somebody who's cocky. Don't be that guy. Number 10, be able to say no. A lot of musicians want to say yes to everything, but if you're in demand, you'll be stretching yourself thin and you won't be able to give 100%. Try to look at things from a long-term perspective. For example, you may want to devote yourself to a profitable cover band that gigs regularly. However, if you have an offer to play in a promising band with great originals, the ceiling will be much higher in the long run. So try your best to be selective with your commitments. Lastly, number 11, always think about your reputation. This idea encompasses most everything we've talked about so far. The entertainment industry is a small world and your reputation goes a long way. It takes a lifetime to build it and you can destroy it instantly. Whether it be on stage or off, you want to be thought about in a positive light. I'll hire someone with less musical skill over an absolute virtuoso if I've heard they're easy to work with, reliable, and come prepared. For better or worse, this will get spread around through word of mouth. Whatever you do, your reputation should always be on your mind. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for today. I hope you found this information useful. If you are in fact considering a career in the music industry, one of the best things you can do is understand the business side of it. I personally recommend the book All You Need to Know About the Music Industry by Donald Passman. It covers everything from record deals to publishing rights to TV licensing and does a great job of simplifying some tricky and boring concepts. I've got a link to it in the description. This thing has been one of my go-to books for a long time. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider heading over to my Patreon page and supporting my channel. People like you make videos like this possible. And if you're interested in a private Sensei session over Skype, you can get at me using my email. You can find it down there in the description. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again next time.